2022, paper 2 deferred, and it's question 9, A part 3. That's where we stopped. So the scale on the map is 1:50,000. 3 other peaks form a triangle XYZ on the map of area 152 centimeters squared. Find the actual area of the triangle formed by joining the peaks of the mountain X, Y, and Z, and give your answer in the form A times 10 to the power of n kilometers squared. And then they basically want us to write it in standard form or scientific notation. Okay, so let's point out a few key things. First of all, we're talking area, so we have jumped to centimeters squared. Then we notice that the units in the final answer do not match the units in the question. And then they also want us to do it in standard form. So there's a little bit going on here we need to be careful about. Right, so this is our scale. Okay, so we're basically saying 1 centimeter is to 50,000 centimeters. Now, if I want to change this squared, well, 1 squared, and this would be 50,000 squared for centimeters squared. Now, we want to go, what is it, 152. So 1 squared is 1. So if I want to make this 152, I need to multiply 152 by my 50,000 squared. So let's see where that gets us. So 152 multiplied by 50,000 squared. Now that's coming out at 3.8 multiplied by 10 to the power of 11 centimeters squared in reality. So the 152 centimeters squared on the map is working out at, and you can see why we're going to write it in standard form, or why the calculator did, was because when we convert something on the map to what it is in reality, it's obviously much, much bigger. And now you can understand why it is that the final answer it's preferable to put it as kilometers squared rather than centimeters squared. So before we continue, we might just recap on converting units. So centimeter, meter, kilometer. So hopefully from junior cycle, you'll remember centimeters to meters, we normally divide by 100. Meters to kilometers, we divide by 1,000. If I'm going the other way around, I multiply by 1,000 and I multiply by 100. Now I could put millimeters in there as well, but it's just not relevant to this question. Now, this is something I always teach at junior cycle. If you want to change the centimeters squared to meters squared, or meters squared to kilometers squared, what you do is you put a square on everything, and it makes your job so much easier. So if you want to go from centimeters squared to meters squared, we divide by 100 squared. So we might do that first. So I am going to divide the figure that I have by 100 squared, and that will put it in meters squared. So I'm going to do that first on my calculator. Now that gives me this 38,000,000 meters squared. Now I'm going to, so that's meters squared. So now I'm going to have to divide it by 1,000 squared to get to kilometers squared. So underneath I divide by 1,000 squared. So on my calculator, I divide that figure by 1,000 squared. And I end up, and that's going to be in kilometers, and I end up with 38 kilometers squared. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but because it has to be in standard form, we still have to write it in that form, even though the number is now not as big as it used to be. So we have to make sure that the number is between 1 and 10. So instead of 38, I write 3.8. Always multiply by 10. And then the power here is how many times you've moved the decimal point. So in our case, we've just moved it the 1. So we just put 1 there. And that's it. That's our final answer in kilometers squared, written in standard form. Okay, we should get this one done as well in this video. The surveyors are also estimating the heights of some of the mountains that have not been mapped before, taking measurements from mountains that have already been mapped. The surveyors measured the angles to the mountain C from mountain A and B as shown below. They also estimate that the distance A to C is 8 more than the distance from B to C. So we don't actually know any of the distances, but we do know that there's a connection. So if B and C are X kilometers apart, then A and C are X plus 8 kilometers apart. They let X kilometers be the distance from B to C. Find the value of C. Now, straight away, it comes back to the usual thing in trigonometry. Is it right angled or not? It's not. Because it's not right angled, I'm thinking sine rule or cosine rule. Given the fact this time we're looking at sides and angles, it's going to be our sine rule. So again, you should be writing the sine rule from the log tables. I'm going to get straight into it just to save some time. So I pick a side and I divide by the sine of the angle opposite. So this is our sine rule. And then I pick another side and I divide by the sine of the angle opposite. Now, my calculator is in degrees, so I'm good to go, and I want to find X to 1 decimal place. So, and it's going to be a length of side in kilometers. So I'm going to cross multiply X times the sine of 88 is equal to X plus 8 times the sine of 42. Okay, so that's what we have at the moment. So maybe I'll get the sine of 88 first and see what that is. So that is 0.99939. I'm just leaving in a lot of decimal places here because I don't want to round too soon. Okay, I'm going to do the sine of 42 next. Now, that is 0.669130, etc. Now, just be careful here, because this is in a bracket, it's really important that everything gets multiplied. So you're multiplying X by that figure, so 0.669130X. You are also multiplying 8 by that figure. So I'm going to multiply 8 by 0.669130 plus, so that's 5.35304, etc. Now, because I have X's on each side, just like I would do in any algebraic situation, I would bring X's to one side, numbers to the other. So that's what I'm going to do. 0.99939X minus 0.669130X equals 5.35304. Now, because they're like terms, I'm going to type in 0.99939 and I'm going to subtract my 0.669130. So that's 0.33026X. And then to finish, I just need to divide and tidy up. So 38304 divided by 0.33026. So 5.35304 divided by 0.33026. Now we want to correct to 1 decimal place. So my answer is 16.208. To 1 decimal place, that's going to be 16.2, and it's kilometers because that was the unit in the question.